The spectacle before us is not strength but swagger, not strategy but strut. Two elderly men square up across an anxious century, each auditioning for the role of history's last alpha, and the prop they reach for is the oldest terror in the cupboard. Donald Trump announces that the United States will resume nuclear testing immediately. The Kremlin replies that if Washington tests, Moscow will test too. Applause from the cheap seats, shivers from everyone else. We should call this what it is: theatre, then fallout. The United States has managed without a full nuclear test since 1992. Russia once ratified the test ban, then theatrically unstitched it in 2023 while insisting it still respects the spirit. Both remain bound into the monitoring web that listens to every tremor of the earth. Neither needs a mushroom cloud to maintain the deterrent. Tests today are less about physics and more about posture, less about validating warheads and more about validating egos. Into this pageant roll the showpiece contraptions: Poseidon, the supposed sea ghost that would haul a city's doom through dark water; Burevestnik, the so-called flying Chernobyl, a cruise missile married to a reactor in defiance of prudence and common sense. These devices are designed to terrify civilians and titillate commentators. They don't overturn the grim arithmetic that's existed for decades. A single predictable ballistic missile remains a far more predictable guarantee of mutual ruin than a science fair of exotic hazards. The point of these unravelings and unveilings is not military revolution, but psychological spectacle. Meanwhile, the diplomatic set piece sours. The Budapest summit is cancelled after the pre-meeting choreography collapses in a tangle of red lines. Where there should be quiet labour, there is noise. Where there should be careful drafting, there are boasts. The gap between irreconcilable war aims is not bridged by louder microphones. Nuclear drumbeats conceal, they don't resolve. And in the wings, Europe feels the prods and the pinpricks that keep the temperature high. Polish airspace pierced by drones, airports paused, radars busy, Estonian skies trespassed for 12 long minutes, border forces strained, not broken. These are not preludes to Armageddon. They are experiments in nerve, and the aim is to learn from our reflexes. The lesson we should teach is steadiness. Deterrence is simple to state and hard to practice. Capability is already credible on both sides. No coastal doomsday torpedo makes New York or Moscow more mortal than they were yesterday. Testing now is politics and laboratory clothing. Computers, subcritical experiments, and painstaking stewardship keep arsenals potent without puncturing the taboo that protects our grandchildren's lungs. Break the taboo, and you don't gain security, you trade it for contamination and copycats. The risks here are plain and sober. First, the slow strangulation of arms control, with the strategic treaty horizon and the test ban threadbare. The culture of verification erodes. That culture took decades to build. It can be squandered and has been squandered in a season. Second, the danger of misreading a routine probe as a prelude. Drone incursions, scrambled fighters, temporary closures, frayed tempers. These are the ingredients of an instant night that no one intended. Third, the environmental crime of hubris. Atmospheric testing is unthinkable to anyone who can read a cancer registry. Underground testing still leaks and still lies in the future. A responsible answer doesn't require poetry, only will. Say the quiet part aloud. Any nuclear use would be catastrophe beyond any rational gain, and it wouldn't end well for the initiator. We need to reaffirm the moratorium and flood the stewardship program with resources. Moscow can match that with its own no-test posture. We need to harden Europe's defences and counter drone nets, share forensics for every intrusion, and drain the daily frictions that tempt leaders to reach for gaudier signals. We need to offer a narrow, unsentimental trade, reciprocal negotiations and notifications, transparency at test sites, and rules for subcritical work. When grand treaties are impossible, small guards will save lives. The deeper truth is moral as well as strategic. Civilization relies on taboos that we maintain precisely because we can break them. We do not test because we can simulate. We do not brandish because we can deter. We do not threaten cities because we are not barbarians. The habit of restraint is a discipline, not a weakness. It requires leaders who understand that true authority is quiet and cumulative, not loud and episodic. So, we need to be candid about the drama that plays out, and we need to castigate both Trump and Putin. Two men, late in their arc, are trying to bend a young century to their own self-portraits. They mistake volume for vision. They treat doomsday devices as stage properties. They sell a story in which fear is strength and nerve is wisdom. We don't have to buy the ticket. The grown-up response is to starve the spectacle of attention, to answer each probe with calm capability, to refuse the bait of theatrical escalation, and to close ranks around the taboo that has kept the sky clear of radioactive dust for a generation. This is not passivity. It's policy with a spine. It says to every capital, we will defend, we will intercept, we will retaliate if attacked, but we will not perform apocalypse for the cameras. It says to every citizen, your safety depends less on dramatic announcements than on the unromantic grind of verification, maintenance, and restraint. And it says to the world that those would-be impresarios of nuclear bravado, the 20th century, tried your script. It filled cemeteries and poisoned rivers. The curtain is down on this nonsense.